The president defended his decision to pull troops out in Syria and draw down forces in Afghanistan. The same day, the Senate advanced a Republican-sponsored measure condemning a precipitous withdrawal from those two countries. I got elected on saying we were getting out of these endless wars, and he is, give him a lot of credit for this. Give him a lot of credit for sticking with us. I mean, I am concerned, obviously, about the idea that possibly ISIS is gaining more ground, but our intelligence agencies have been wrong in the past, and I don't trust them, and I don't think you should either. I think it's relatively ridiculous to come out and say, okay, I trust what the CIA and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates is saying. I mean, I want some independent research. I want to hear other side of the story, and I don't think you should either. It'd be absolutely crazy to teach or take what the intelligence agencies say as gospel. It's well past the point of that ever happening again. Given that, though, Trump did not explain why he had taken such an assertive stance in trying to force President Nicolas Maduro out of Venezuela, which is, again, a very other weird situation that we'll get to in later on in the show with the Elliot Abrams story. So finally, he also mentioned Saudi Arabia. Now in Saudi Arabia, a lot of improvement has been made in Saudi Arabia while adding the assassination of Saudi Arabian journalists. That was a terrible crime. Yeah, that literally, people are supposedly making improvements. That's what they're called. So yeah, I mean, it's really kind of interesting to see the kind of pulling and pushing that Trump does, like his militaristic attitudes on Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. I mean, influenced by like those John Bolton types. And then we got him just randomly deciding to pull out of wars, which is something that I never thought he would do. And I don't know what faction inside the White House, what faction really inside the White House would have pushed him to do that, because it just seems like it doesn't really fit in with anything of their, like, any really part of their typical rhetoric. Maybe it was a Steve Bannon type of thing, but I mean, Lord knows, really, for sure. What in the world goes on in the White House these days? So he talks about Russia, and then that's pretty much it. So, all right, now we're going to move on to a pretty crazy story broken by the Virginian pilot, I believe. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam graduated from the Eastern Virginia Medical School in 1984 when he was in his mid-20s. In his yearbook entry, though, you can find a picture of a man in blackface next to another man wearing the robes of the KKK. It's a little disturbing, to say the least. The photo, the existence of which was first made public by the right-wing site Big League Politics earlier today, was later confirmed by the Virginian Pilot newspaper, which found a copy of the yearbook in the school library. While it's yet to be confirmed whether or not Northam is one of the people in the photo, the other picture, I think he actually did come out and say he was in the photo. The other pictures in Northam's yearbook clearly show him, and under the Klan blackface photo, it lists Northam's alma mater, medical interest, and the quote, "There are more old drunks than old doctors in this world, so I think I'll have another beer." So that's interesting. Northam has made no immediate comments, but the Virginia Democratic leadership defended the governor, saying, quote, "His whole life has been the exact opposite, and I think that's what you need to examine, not something that occurred 30 years ago. While it's in very poor taste, I think that there is, I would think there is problem no one in the General Assembly who would like their college conduct examined." I think that's a typo there. I would hate to go back and examine my 2 years in the Army. Trust me, I was 18 years old and I was a handful, okay? His life since then has been anything but. It's been a life of helping people, and many times for free, is what he says there. As the defense, Northam has actually enjoyed some pretty high approval ratings in his first year in office. And by the way, Ralph Northam, as someone who's a Democrat, is not that bad. I really don't think he's not a ridiculously centrist guy. He's not a really ridiculously right-wing guy. He's kind of a little bit moderate. He's kind of the perfect governor for Virginia. And boy, I would rather have him in than some kind of Republican who's actually going to enact these racist policies rather than just do a stupid, awful yearbook picture about them 30 years in the past. All right, so he has enjoyed approval ratings, although in recent days he's been under a full-throated, disingenuous attack from National GOP after comments he made that would loosen restrictions on third trimester abortions. So that kind of sucks. Northam confirmed the yearbook's authenticity, as I said before, saying, quote, "I'm deeply sorry for the decision I made to appear in this photo, and the hurt decision has caused then and now." So the fact that he let it go in the yearbook kind of sucks. NAACP also is calling for Northam's resignation. I think it's well within the right to do that, but personally, I don't think he's going to. I don't think I really don't think he should. I hate to say it. I mean, obviously, anything in this, like anything that's that racist, is so prevalently racist, it's awful. I cannot say this enough. You hate to see it happen, and really hate to say that this guy should come on. But the thing is, he would be better because he's well liked in Virginia. He has seen popularity there. And the fact is, he wouldn't actually come in and, I believe, enact these policies that actually really, really hurt the living standards of black and brown people. If you remember, the governor, the candidate that he ran against to win his governorship back in 2017 he was like ridiculously anti-immigrant, and he would have actually probably gone after these people in the first day, whereas Northam has not. I mean, obviously, I'm open to other opinions on this, other takes on this. Because obviously I'm not in the position to know the most about it by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I don't really know that, I don't really know too much about these issues. I'm not an expert on, like, race, and obviously I know the history of blackface and that it's offensive, but again, I'm sure people have other issues and problems with that, so please contact me, leave a comment on the show, get to at SBW272 on Twitter, at TSWRN. And I would love to kind of hear your comments, and if you have differing opinions, especially on this story. All right. Yeah, we now turn to another interesting event in the community of African-American community. Senator Cory Booker announced on Friday morning that he's running for president, throwing his hat into what's really shaping up to be one of the most crowded Democratic primaries in living memory. Booker is a junior senator from New Jersey and former mayor of New York. He made a 2.5 announcement video posted to Twitter. So Booker's decision to run is really no surprise. He's been widely trailed for months. He joins other people, fellow senators Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Kirsten Gillibrand on the campaign trail. So, yeah. Now that Harris's race has begun gaining momentum, Kamala Harris, obviously praised even by President Trump for having a very strong launch to her campaign. It has been dogged, at least on the left, by some pretty bad allegations of her right-wing past, both in terms of criminal justice reform and just attacks pretty much on the poor, which I'm sure will be brought up by any self-respecting leftist in the primary and possibly even by Bernie Sanders. Booker is apparently now anxious to prevent her from pulling too far ahead, as is why he jumped in the race. The Hill reported both Harris and Booker attended a CBC policy retreat, Congressional Black Caucus policy retreat on Wednesday, saying, quote, "I'm excited for the candidates that are already out there. It's really good for the Democratic Party, and it's a good thing," Booker told The Hill as he left the meeting. "I'm excited about Kamala Harris's candidacy. It's incredible. It's historic." In the past, though, here's the thing. Booker, you really see, my personal prediction is he does not go too far. He is Kamala Harris. Do you think Kamala Harris is bad when it comes to a right-wing record in the past? Ooh, this guy's bad. Ties to Wall Street that are deeper than blood. It's insane connections to Wall Street, charter schools, and corporate donors. Every corporate interest you can see here, possibly some linked to it, some even ties and donations received from Jared Kushner. And Booker actually did sign on to Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill, hopefully an indication he'd support the policy for presidency. But again, it becomes obviously Bernie Sanders or Cory Booker. Like, you know who I'm going to support there easily, because I think you just have someone who's more serious about the policies and actually understands them, cares about them, and wants to really kind of motivate them and push them across more. So that is pretty much how things stand at the moment with Cory Booker. According to a CNN report from January, his campaign will be centered on the message of unity and love. What would that look like in the current day and age? That's a very interesting question with this political climate that is going on right now. So that's just something we're going to wait with bated breath to see. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously, thank you so much for sticking with us. It's Newsflash this Friday night. So really appreciate you sticking through with us here today. We got a lot of great stuff for you still ahead on the show. Muslim women in the house defy expectations over Israel. More layoffs at Vice, Elliott Abrams, and Howard Schultz to round out our show. All right. We start with some of the Muslim women in Congress who are making some incredible headway when it comes to defying possible expectations about Israel. And I do kind of want to get this quickly, but again, I kind of don't want to actually talk about it because it's such a great story. Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Michigan and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota were hailed as symbols of diversity when they were sworn in last month as the first two Muslim women in Congress. Tlaib and her mother's hand-embroidered Palestinian thobe. Definitely butchering that. I apologize there to all the Palestinian folks who possibly be listening. Miss Omar, though, she wore a tradition-shattering hijab, so that's pretty cool stuff. You can get some real culture in there. 4 weeks, their uncompromising views on Israel have made them perhaps the most embattled new members of the Democratic House majority. Almost daily, Republicans brashly accuse Tlaib and Omar of anti-Semitism and bigotry, hoping to make them the Democrats' version of Representative Steve King as they try to tar the entire Democratic Party with their criticism of the Jewish state, which is very, very far-fetched. And I mean, honestly, none of the things she said either of them have been anti-Semitic at all. They've been very critical of Israel, and I think with good reason and good purpose. But it's very hard to see that, it's very hard, very, very hard to see that there is a big problem with this in the Democratic, even in the Democratic Party, with Lee Zeldin, and all the way from Lee Zeldin to Elliot Engel, which is just absolutely, it just makes you want to just say, come on, we got to get behind our people here. But this thing, the question is really, how is it going to absorb in the Democratic, in the American public? And I mean, I really don't think it's going to convince anyone. I don't think it's going to change anyone in the Democratic Party, because I think the large majority of Americans have little to no interest, except for the small fragment of people who are like, dude, we want Israel, like the Lindsey Graham types, like the evangelical Christians who say, like, we want Israel to do well, so it starts off, triggers the rapture and the end of the world and all that stuff. So they're obviously very pro-Israel. But, I mean, I really get the sense that, and I think polling does back this up, that there is a really strong lack of interest when it comes to Israel on the broad scheme of things on the American stage. So this is kind of annoying. And while Democratic leaders, they did publicly defend him, some Democratic colleagues were clearly uneasy. Ted Deutsch, Democrat of Florida, founded a bipartisan task force to combat anti-Semitism, and said some of the lawmakers' comments fall into the long-standing anti-Semitic tropes, which is obviously incredibly BS. Like, some of the stuff that they said, there's really little, I mean, very, very hard to see any of the statements about this, what they've actually said that's so controversial, that's kind of whipping everything up into a storm. That's whipping everyone up here into the storm. Omar was named to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Its chairman, Representative Elliott Engel of New York, told her privately that he would not allow some of her particularly hurtful comments to be swept under the rug. So that is something that should very well easily be watched. And Elliott Engel should really take the moment to pause and consider other opinions to what he's being pretty much fed throughout his entire life. I mean, his entire public career in Congress. Because the thing is, and I don't want to see again, stand at the risk of falling into these anti-Semitic tropes, but the fact is there is a little to no dissenting opinion throughout established Washington about what should happen with Israel. Like, it's in 100%. It's the only thing that really Washington could be bipartisan on is undying love to Israel, undying love to Benjamin Netanyahu, and the fact that they are so close-minded and so unwilling to listen to facts and suffering of a whole bunch of people is very telling and disturbing. I think, frankly, it's very, very disturbing that people can be so close-minded in this front and just really turn that off. And that's something that Elliott Engel is going to have to actually sit and listen to, I think, because it would behoove him and probably the rest of Congress to get kind of at least some opposing view on this without immediately turning to say, oh, it's anti-Semitic, when there's real anti-Semitism out there. There's some in the very rare and extreme cases on the left, but a large majority of it's on the right, and there's little to be done by our government, and all of it is, you criticize Israel, you're anti-Semitic, and that's the situation that we see growing and getting worse and worse every single day.